grabbed the Connie. It was the largest thing that I could get that would fit in that area. I like the Connie though. Always have.
I just wish it had more computer consoles and things. It seems like the bridge had a bunch of useless space.
I wish they would get rid of the transparencies and put black backgrounds on these little screens. To me, that would make things way easier to see. Yeah, you lose a little quote-unquote visibility on the windows because the screens are there, but it would be way easier to read this stuff. But I know that the whole UI is getting an update. They're revamping all of this. They've already showed pictures in the roadmap, so it looks like they're using multiple colors. It looks like they're trying to work. They put a lot of information on the edges of screens and stuff. I will have to see what they do with it. I'm hoping that they clean it up a little bit because like a lot of people complain about struts and stuff. And a lot of ships, they're absolutely right. Struts are terrible. I mean, they're like literally in the face of the pilot. And to some extent, the Connie is too. But the Connie isn't like it's not a dogfighter. It's not as important to that extent. But having played a lot of World War II flight sims, there's some fighters that really don't have much view. Surprisingly so. And when I look at that, I look at this game. I've seen worse, but I've also seen better. It's kind of like, in some regards, depends upon what you're flying. Either it's decent, it's really good, like the Avenger. The Avenger's awesome, or it's absolutely terrible. Like if you look at the Idris, where the pilot is literally looking at the back of a metal beam. We're like, how does he fly again? Because he can't see anything. So there's these issues that'll have to be hammered out during the stages of, well, like for the Idris, for example, that kind of change isn't important until the players can fly it. So that might be on a back burner. But also, as well, as the game goes from alpha into beta, you'll see more changes to ship's geometry and layouts and things. I think they're more focused right now on other things. At least getting a lot of the ships that the players have backed in their hands, and then kind of going from there. Once they get that done, they'll probably start going back and there might be a final revision on ship design on many different ships. And I don't think it'll be a major revision. I think there'll be quality of life changes, because a lot of times when they first made ships, they didn't have art styles for every company. And now they've established that they're going back and redoing those ships. So they're not going to need to go back and do like the 300 series again. And they may go back and tweak like some of the layout of the interior a little bit, geometry, whatever, for example. Or they may look at the Connie and say, that middle strut in my face is problematic, so they're going to go ahead and just chop that strut out and make it a solid piece of glass. I mean, it's a simple thing, but it's to me that seems like that would be a good change. I think a lot of people would agree with that. But right now, I think what they're mostly focusing on is functionality, and this is why I'm talking about the closing the gameplay loops, because you get good gameplay for flight. You refine the FPS, including the movement animations, because some of them are kind of janky, and also the pacing. The pacing has been an issue in Star Citizen since day one. You've got everything moving too fast, everything being more Twitch arcadey than anything that represents a universe sim. So all that needs to come down so that all the multi-crew systems and stuff need to work. Because all that they need to, and of course you need to have like actual missions that you can do that you can complete each and every time, or at least obviously there'll be bugs occasionally, but let's say 99% of the time. Obviously there's always going to be a bug out there. But yeah, I mean, basically they close those gameplay loops down, and it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I think even with just one system, there'll be so much to do and so many spaces to go that you won't even know what to do. You'll be too busy. Oh no, I got 30,000 disconnect error. I've got zero luck sometimes. It's like I was literally in orbit around Hurston when it crashed, and I'm all the way back at Levski. That persistence can't happen fast enough. That really can't.
Yay, I'm waking up in my bunk. H.
I think the whole server was dying. That's why you couldn't get out of the elevator. That server-side OCS hopefully will fix some of these 30,000 disconnect errors and things. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a technical guy when it comes to that kind of thing. I haven't done programming in a long time, and it was never anything server-side. It was always just more design and things like that. So it was, you know, also like HTML and Flash and things. So it's a long time ago, though. Many, many moons.
All of our landing areas are currently full.
I'm sitting there listening to you guys' video. The
Really?
one that you guys kept shooting the with the terrapin and the guns of love. And I totally have been questioning why in the world that thing has the center seat back there. That there's no point to having the seat hanging in the
the
center.
scanning station, and I don't know.
You could be like the Herald and have the station off to the side.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it rotates to go with the G-forces of a ship as it's maneuvering, which would make more sense than the Herald's one, which is only on the side. The thing is with the guns on the Terrapin, and why I was doing no damage is, you know, I didn't realize at the point in time that they did put like ion weapons or stun weapons on it, and they aren't even good ones. And so they basically give the only weapon that you have can only hurt other ships by disabling them, maybe. And
But they don't have any other weapons. Yeah, that's
well,
dumb.
I'm like, you know, if I only got one weapon, one set of weapons, like I want something that can at least blast an asteroid that's in my path. I don't want something that's gonna just only work on ships, maybe. And you know that's a bad default layout choice, by far. That I would have chose about any other weapon in the game over what they put on that ship.
I know it's supposed to only use energy weapons, but
yeah, but you could have chosen from a variety of energy weapons. You didn't have to choose like the worst possible choice for the only weapon you have on the ship. If you have multiple, like for example, Super Hornet has like 6 guns. This is where I talk about horizontal progression. See, the idea of the Hornet should be the ships, you know, the fighters can fire about 2 guns at a time because that's their you know, the relatives to their power plants. And why is 6 guns important? Because like, okay, I have my disabling weapon, I have my physical weapon, I have my energy weapon, and you have those all kind of work within the same thing. And you know, you like each one has a stronger ability on something else. Like, you know, energy weapon on shields, physical weapons on hull, and and disabling weapons. So like if you want to do system damage, or you want to do like, you know, oh, I don't want to kill them, I just want to disable them, and they, boom, suddenly your 6 guns. That you have an advantage over someone that they can only carry one set of guns because you have more knives in your Swiss Army knife, and that's horizontal progression. So
wasn't the one Avenger, the one that it's basically for bounty hunting? It had the mixed weapons where you disable. I think they were sucker punch cannons or something.
Cannons, yeah. I think the sucker punches are being done right now currently. But anyway, the point is that these kind of this kind of focus, I think it's very important. It needs to be. Oh, why is my ship going down? Whoa, what's going on? That's weird.
Okay.
So there's a whole slew of gunnery issues that still need to be hashed out, and they'll have to look at them a lot closer post 3.5 with the flight changes. You can't look at it this way. Okay, flight is probably, I would say, well, actually no, probably about it. It's the most complex of the two. So let's look at it as a math equation. Okay. On one side, you have to create the totality of it. You have, for example, gunnery is the number 4, and these are things supposed to work together, so they balance with each other. And on the right hand of the equation, you have flight, which has more variables. So it could be, you know, 1 plus 2 plus 1. You know, it could have like little differences. It could be, you know, 2 plus 2. It could be 3 plus 1. It could be. So the point is that the variable on the right must always equal the variable on the left. Now the problem is that Star Citizens have with flight in particular, is that they're always changing the variable on the right and not changing the variable on the left. So they're like doing 2 plus 3. Well, that doesn't equal 4. We're going to do 2 plus 2 plus 5. Well, that doesn't equal 4. So no matter what happens...
Doesn't that have to do with the developers? They had too many developers enter their own values into the engine?
Well, yeah, they throw. There was a lot of random values. Yeah, very much. It seems like there are a lot of them. When you look at the sheets, they're very willy nilly. It just feels like someone just ran a random number generator. But what I'm saying is that their whole approach has been this: we can't touch this left side of the equation, but we're going to go ahead and try to redefine the right side of the equation. Now, without changing the left side, no matter what you do, you're always confined to needing to equal that 4. Which means basically your flight always has to work with that gunnery. So if you're unwilling to make any adjustments to that gunnery, guess what happens to your flight? It always will change a bit. There'll be things that change. They'll modify. They'll be slightly different than the last one. For example, you could do 1.5 and 2.5. So to speak. As an option to get to 4. So you can have these variations to the way it was on the right. But no matter what, it has to go back and equal 4. So what they need to do is first get that value of flight the way they want it. Ignore what's on the left. And then since that's the easier of the two, then just change that number when you get it the way you want it. Like, hey, look, we ended up with 8.635. Okay, well, move the number over here. We make sure it's 8.635 on that side, or whatever. Or whatever. The point is that they need to focus on flight first, the complex variable, get it where they want it, and then make sure that the weapons on the other side of the coin match what needs to be done on both sides of the equation. But as I said, they've been treating flight, not flight, but a gunnery as this odd sacred cow. These terrible controls, the point and click zero order, and trying to blend it with first order, which nobody's ever been able to do ever in gaming. It's always resulted in one of two things: either they have to split game modes. That's why you don't see PC players playing with console players. Typically, it's not done. In fact, in War Thunder, they had console players playing with in arcade. They had little asterisk next to them, I think, and they were just free points. They weren't as effective by a long shot. Or you have the splitting the consoles, or you have a whole basically where they'll just lock out a whole control option. War Thunder tried it. They ended up having the realistic or sim flight modes and the arcade modes. And a lot of people say, well, there's more people playing arcade, so that's a justification that this is a better control scheme. Well, two things. One, it's a free-to-play game, which isn't indicative of the same kind of market flow you see in a game that people back with real money. Yeah, there's microtransactions and stuff in games like War Thunder, but generally speaking, you can just come in and play. Two, arcade mode is, well, it's a fast food experience. There's nothing about Star Citizen that's a fast food experience. I mean, here I am traveling to Hurston again, 22 million kilometers out, and there's nothing about this that, I mean, I could go probably make dinner and come back and still be flying.
Yeah, as I say, this game's not set up for someone who wants to just boot up their console, play a quick skirmish for 10-15 minutes or whatever, maybe even 30 minutes. It's more like, all right, I'm gonna set some time. I want to go travel over here and
that's why persistence is so important, because we need to be able to log out in our beds and our ships in the middle of deep space, because real life, right? Yeah. But it sometimes works, sometimes doesn't right now. So, but the thing is that the sacred cow that they've had of being unwilling to consider first order controls as the primary, and of course FPS just needs to be the mouse and the keyboard. They talked a little while ago about balancing it with the gamepad and things. I'm like, you're insane. No one's ever been able to do that. I could show them a study that Microsoft tried to do that very thing. It was a year or more ago, and they utterly failed at. They took a top performing console team, gave them auto aim assist against an average PC team with mouse and keyboard, and even with all the assists and stuff, and being a higher ranked team, it was a match. It was a draw. And they both hated the gameplay and weren't satisfied with the match and all. They didn't find it fun. And they said the problem was even if they do all that, someone could emulate. Someone who has a mouse can get a third-party program that can emulate that it's a gamepad. So not only do they get the mouse's precision, but they get the additional auto aim on top of it. And they said, so since there's no way to really stop that, that the whole thing would even get worse. And that was the most recent test that I think it was Titanfall they did it with. And people could look that up, but it was very interesting. And this is, and if you go back to 2002, the original Freelancer, and to this day, you can look on the forums of freelancers, any freelancer forum, and they're still talking about the fact that stick doesn't work worth a damn compared to the point-and-click zero-order flight that they have in there. Stick flight became a secondary, so they haven't even been able to resolve it, and that's now 17 years, and that problem has been resolved in that game. So there's no way to do it because nobody has done it because it is literally oil and water. But you see, the mouse can completely replicate the stick. It can do first order controls. It's just that the stick can't do zero order. It's the same reason you don't use the stick to control your desktop. It doesn't. I tried that once in the 90s when I had my first Pentium. I played X-Wing with this cheap little stick. And
yes.
You could move the cursor around. It was terrible. So yeah, it was. There's a reason that different control methodologies exist.